Welcome everyone to the Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
Today we're diving deep into, well, it's an extraordinary story. Sometimes brutal, definitely fascinating. It's the history of a true canine legend.
Absolutely.
We're talking about a champion whose name, honestly, it just echoes through the very foundation of the American Pit Bull Terrier lineage. We're talking about Grand Champion Zebo.
That's right. And for this deep dive, we've really tried to pull together everything we could. Documented records, sure, but also those, whispered anecdotes, the first-hand accounts from people who were actually there, who knew Zebo.
Right.
Our mission really is to peel back the layers of his legacy, to try and understand not just what he did, in the ring, but why his impact was so profound, and frankly, why his story still has this air of captivating mystery around it.
Definitely.
And just to be clear up front, it's vital we remember the context here. We're looking at a specific historical period, a specific subculture, and practices like dogfighting, which are, highly controversial, illegal now. They were, unfortunately, part of how these breeds were developed and judged back then. Our job here isn't to endorse anything. It's to impartially convey the history, the perspectives from the sources.
Exactly. It's about understanding the reality that shaped the legend.
Precisely. Understanding the realities that shaped Zebo's legend.
Absolutely. So think of this as your shortcut to really getting Zebo's significance in dog history. We're going to try and pull out the most compelling bits of knowledge, uncover some surprising facts maybe, and help you grasp his, monumental impact without feeling totally overwhelmed by all the info out there. We're going beyond just wins and losses. We're exploring the phenomenon, the Zebo phenomenon.
Yeah.
And the questions that still hang around him.
Yeah.
So our mission, peel back those layers. But to really appreciate this legend, we need to start at the beginning, with a man who, probably without knowing it, was setting the stage for one of the most debated canine legacies ever.
Right. To really get the genesis of a legend like Zebo, we have to go back. Early 1970s, rural North Carolina, that's where we find a young guy named Lonzo Pratt.
Lonzo Pratt.
Yeah, a budding pit bull enthusiast. And he started carving out a reputation for himself. Now, Lonzo wasn't just, some kid with a dog. He had this unique quality. People described it as a real savoir-faire and charm.
Savoir-faire. What did that translate to practically?
Well, it wasn't just being polite. It was more like a social intelligence, an intuition about people, about dogs too. And this charisma, it allowed him to get the respect, the profound respect of two really big names back then, major breeders, J. Lupose and Pete Sparks.
And that's huge, right? Getting in with figures like Lupose and Sparks, especially for a younger guy in what must have been a pretty closed-off world.
Oh, absolutely. It wasn't easy. This was a very insular community. Trust was hard-earned. Reputation was, it was everything. These were circles where bloodlines were almost guarded secrets. Breeding strategies honed over generations. Respect wasn't just given, it had to be demonstrated. You needed a deep understanding of the breed, its demands, and a real talent for developing top-tier animals.
So Lonzo had that knack.
He did. His ability to navigate that world, to build those relationships, it says a lot about his early skills. And it was through that trust, that connection, that he started making a name for himself. He got a notable bitch named Faye from Lupose and Sparks.
Yeah.
That brought him some initial recognition. But it was really his own vision, his own breeding choices that lit the fuse for the legend.
That leads us to the key moment, right? The breeding that changed everything. Lonzo's Andy and Lonzo's Angie.
Exactly. Two of his own exceptional bulldogs. He paired them, and the litter they produced, it became famous. Literally.
It wasn't just luck then. It was his eye for the match.
That's the idea. Lonzo saw a complementary genetic combination. He believed mixing those specific bloodlines would create something really special.
And did it ever?
Indeed. This litter was, fantastic. 3 males, 3 females. And each one had its own path, its own destiny, which kind of shows you how diverse a lineage can be, even from the same parents.
Right. Some lived quiet lives, while others became legends. And one sparked this huge debate about genetics.
Precisely.
So let's touch on Zebo's siblings from that litter. There was Lena. The records say she didn't really make history like the others.
No, not in the same way. She was sold to just a regular family, factory workers, lived her life away from the competitive scene. A contrast, really.
And then there was Rosie. Now, Rosie was different.
Yes, she was.
She had a fighting career, won both her matches, apparently. Each took about 50 minutes.
Which is significant. It shows stamina, grit.
But then she was retired pretty quickly after that.
Right. And retired specifically for breeding. Her genes were valuable based on her performance, her traits. She lived to be 10, passed away in Lonzo Pratt's yard, actually just 3 months after her last litter.
Wow. So that highlights the dual role, right? Performer, then producer.
Exactly. They weren't just athletes, they were seen as crucial genetic repositories for the future of the line. Vital.
Okay. And among the males, there was Crush.
Crush, like Lena, took a different path. A father bought him as a companion dog for his kids.
Lived a full life, died at 11. But again, not the legendary status of his brothers in the fighting world.
No. And then there's Vindicator.
Ah, Vindicator. This is where it gets really interesting.
It really does. Vindicator was also a powerhouse from that same litter, a champion himself, described as a tremendous red-nosed bulldog.
That red-nosed coloration was a big deal, right?
Very much so. Prized, recognized, and Vindicator earned his stripes. He was a 3-time winner, one of his biggest wins, against Zebo R.O.M, won that in an hour and a half.
An hour and a half, so clearly an elite dog.
No question. He had the skill, the tenacity. He belonged among the best.
But his story has a sad turn.
It does. Tragically, Vindicator died young, heartworms, cut his promising career short.
And here's the part that fuels endless debate, right? The breeders, the ones really close to it, who worked the matches,
Yeah.
they often insisted Vindicator was actually better than Zebo.
Exactly, and that's not just idle gossip. That's coming from people who supposedly knew. It puts this immediate question mark over Zebos Legacy, even with all his wins.
What does that even mean, better, if Zebo was so dominant?
Well, better in that world.
Yeah.
It didn't always just mean raw power. It could mean more refined technique, maybe better defense, or perhaps an even deeper game.
Game, you mean courage, heart.
Precisely.
Yeah.
That willingness to go on no matter what. They might have seen a certain perfection in Vindicator's execution that, to their eyes, maybe even Zebo didn't quite match. It creates this huge what if.
What if Vindicator hadn't gotten sick?
Right. What would his record look like? How would we view Zebo if his brother had lived out his full potential? That assertion that Vindicator might have been superior?
Yeah.
It hangs there.
And it leads us right into Zebo's next chapter, doesn't it? Where that question of superiority, even if indirectly, gets tested.
It absolutely does, because this is when Lester Hughes enters the picture.
Mountain Man.
Mountain Man, exactly. A renowned figure in the community. He goes to Lonzo Pratt with a very specific goal, almost audacious, really.
He wanted to
Yeah?
buy one of them.
He wanted to see Zebo and Vindicator fight each other.
The brothers. Against each other. Wow.
To decide which one to buy. He wanted to see them head-to-head to pick the one he thought was the absolute best from that incredible litter for his own kennels. A strategic investment.
Wow. So this internal match happens.
It does, and you can imagine the anticipation. The records call it spectacular and very intense, just continuous strikes from both.
Yeah.
The power, the determination. It must have been unbelievable.
There's always a but with this story, isn't there?
Chuckles slightly. Seems like it. The crucial thing here, the part that just adds fuel to the fire about who is really better, the match was stopped. After an hour.
Stopped. Who won?
Nobody. No clear winner. Neither dog quit, neither handler pulled their dog. It was just called off. Inconclusive.
No way. So the big question, Zebo or Vindicator, remained unanswered, even after they fought.
Exactly. The debate just continued. But despite that inconclusive result, Lester Hughes made his choice. He picked Zebo.
Interesting. Why Zebo then, if it was a draw?
We don't know for sure. Maybe he saw something specific in Zebo's style, some raw potential that just swayed him, whatever it was. Zebo went to Hughes's kennels, stayed there for 2 years.
And that's when Zebo's career really took off.
Oh, yeah. Under Mountain Man's guidance, Zebo started his claim to dominance. His early fighting record, phenomenal. He won all 4 of his matches, undefeated.
Okay, 4 wins. Impressive. But it was how he won, wasn't it?
That's what became legendary. Zebo didn't just win. He reportedly killed all 4 of his adversaries.
Killed them, all 4.
That's the record, and in incredibly short times. 22 minutes, 26 minutes, 18 minutes, 34 minutes.
Wow. That's brutal efficiency. What does that tell you about his style?
It tells you he had that ultimate game, that courage, combined with just overwhelming explosive power. He wasn't messing around. He aimed for a quick, decisive end.
Which, for breeders...
For breeders, that was gold. It screamed genetic superiority, not just winning, but dominating completely. His value as a potential stud dog must have skyrocketed right then. He marked himself as a cornerstone.
And his ferocity wasn't just limited to the pit, was it? There's that story.
Ah, yes. The incident at Grady Cummings kennels, that's another piece of the Zebo legend.
What happened there? Hughes sent him there temporarily.
Yeah, after his 4th win, maybe to give his own place a break. So Zebo's staying at Grady Cummings' place. Cummings has his own dog, apparently a tough one, called Cummings Red Fox. Killer name, right?
Secco, yeah.
So the story goes, one night, Red Fox gets off his chain. Maybe an accident, maybe, as the legend hints, he got a bit too brave.
Uh-oh.
And he had the brilliant idea to venture towards Zebo, who's also chained up nearby. And Zebo killed him instantly, just like that. No fight, no struggle, just an immediate lethal response.
Instantly. Wow. So what did Cummings do?
The next morning, Cummings calls Lester Hughes, apparently quite shaken, not yelling, just informing him what happened and telling him, basically, come get your dog now.
You can just imagine that phone call.
Right. That incident, maybe even more than the matches, cemented Zebo's reputation. Innate ferocity, zero tolerance for any challenge, even outside the formal pit.
So Mountain Man must have been getting offers for him by then.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Many offers from potential buyers. Zebo's name was spreading like wildfire. Undefeated killer, the incident at Cummings's. Everyone wanted him.
Did Hughes want to sell?
Initially, no intention of selling. Hughes had the dog he believed in, the one he'd brought along. He saw Zebo as his cornerstone.
But money talks.
Well, some offers are just too good to pass up, especially when they mean taking the dog to an even bigger stage.
And that leads us to Dave Adams.
Exactly. Dave Adams from Ohio. He's the one who enters the picture and makes Lester Hughes an offer he could not refuse.
So Zebo changes hands again.
He does. And this is a huge moment. Zebo moves from being this sort of regional terror to a national legend.
Mm-hmm.
And from then on, he's known by Adams's name. GR CH Zebo R.O.M.
Grand Champion Adams Zebo, Register of Merit. That's the title you hear.
That's the one. A new chapter opens. Zebo's in Ohio, his legend growing. But before his most famous match, there's another interesting what-if story.
Oh, another fight that didn't happen.
A dog called Carver's Tex.
Carver's Tex. Any good?
Pretty good, yeah. 44 pounds, a 2-time winner, a capable dog.
And the owner, Hudson.
Well, the description is, oh, good man, but boasted far too much about his dog.
One of those guys. Tex did this, Tex did that.
Chuckles, exactly. So naturally, when you've got 2 top dogs in the same area and one owner won't stop talking...
A challenge is inevitable.
Pretty much. Adams and Hudson decide to match Tex against Zebo. Plan was for it to happen at a big convention down in Mexico. A major event.
I-6.
Definitely. And things got even more interesting. A week before the fight, Hudson calls Adams with a strange proposal.
What of it?
He suggested they share the winnings, but the loss would be forfeited by both.
Huh. Like a hedge.
Yeah.
No matter who wins, they both kind of don't lose.
Something like that. Very unusual. Shows the pressure, maybe some doubts on Hudson's side. Or just trying to guarantee some return on a risky venture.
Weird deal. So did they take it? Did the fight happen?
Well, the deal itself doesn't matter because the match never took place.
Why not?
The whole convention was banned by the Mexican authorities.
Oh, man, another one. So we'll never know Zebo versus Tex. Just
Wow.
adds to the mystique, I guess.
It does. But what we do know about what's undeniably Zebo's most memorable match, his defining moment, that was against Greaser.
Greaser. Now that was a name.
Oh, yeah. Greaser wasn't just any dog. He was known as the best 44-pounder in all of Oklahoma. A true champion. Feared, even.
What was his reputation like? His style?
Formidable. He was described as extremely sly, defensive, and had a powerful bite. So not just brute force, he was smart, tactical.
And he had big wins under his belt.
Documented wins against serious dogs, Maloney's Alligator, Mayfield's Go Devils, names that carried weight. Greaser was the real deal, a dangerous strategic opponent for Zebo.
Definitely not a pushover.
Not at all. There was even a saying going around back then about matches like this.
Yeah.
When you put 2 dogs like Zebo and Greaser against one another, the respective owners need 2 things. A great dog in splendid condition and to recite their favorite prayer.
Chuckles. Wow. That really sets the scene, doesn't it? The pressure, the stakes.
Immense. And the setting itself was pretty dramatic. A cold night in a barn. Raw, intense atmosphere.
And the weight difference was significant here too, right?
It was. Zebo weighed 40 pounds. Greaser was 44 pounds, 4 pounds heavier.
And Adams went ahead anyway.
He did. Made sure everyone knew he was giving up those 4 pounds. It was a statement of confidence in Zebo's raw ability.
Ballsy. What were the odds like? Who did people favor?
Interestingly, The majority of the bets were in Greaser's favor.
Really? Even against undefeated Zebo?
Yeah. Maybe the weight, maybe Greaser's tactical reputation, it swayed people. The smart money, or what seemed like it, was on Greaser.
Okay, tension's high. Who saw this fight? Any good accounts?
Richard Stratton, the author, historian of the breed, he was there. And his account is powerful. He simply said he had never seen anything like it.
Never seen anything like it. From Stratton, that's saying something. What happened in the fight?
The first hour was apparently all Greaser. Brutal. He continually struck Zebo at the head, just relentlessly targeting that spot.
Going for cumulative damage.
Exactly. While defensively, he was closing himself to defend attacks to the chest from Zebo, protecting his own vital areas from Zebo's bite. It was a smart, calculated strategy. Defensive, but punishing.
Trying to wear Zebo down.
Yeah.
Did it work?
For a while, yes, but Stratton described the turning point. He said, bit by bit, Zebo started to have the upper hand.
How?
He started succeeding to sink into Greaser's chest, destroying him. Despite the headshots, despite the defense, Zebo persevered. He found his openings and unleashed that devastating bite, gradually, relentlessly breaking Greaser down.
Destroying him. That's intense. How long did it take?
This is the staggering part. Zebo won, victorious after. 2 hours and 55 minutes.
What, almost 3 hours?
Almost 3 solid hours of intense combat.
I can't even imagine the stamina, the sheer will required from both dogs. That's just incredible.
Almost unbelievable. It wasn't just a win, it was an epic. A testament to Zebo's endurance, his heart, his power. That match cemented his legend forever. No question.
Unbelievable. A true champion. But even legends have bumps in the road. Zebo's time with Adams ended. Unexpectedly.
Yeah, it ended due to a really unfortunate, very sensitive incident. The accounts say that one day, Zebo attacked Adams' young son.
Oh no, seriously?
Yes, and injury was severe. Removed the boy's ear. Just a terrible, traumatic event for the family.
Absolutely horrific. You can't even imagine. So what happened then?
Understandably, Adams' wife insisted. She said he had to get rid of Zebo. The child's safety had to come first.
Of course. A heartbreaking decision, but you have to.
So Adams sold Zebo. He went to a Mr. Johnson. This was his final owner.
Did Zebo fight again under Johnson?
He did. Participated in another 2 fights. Won them both, which solidified his undefeated record at 7 documented wins.
7 wins, undefeated,
Yeah.
and then retirement.
Yes. Finally retired from fighting. Still undefeated at the age of 7, which is quite an age for that career. His fighting days were over.
But his contribution wasn't finished.
Not by a long shot. After retirement, he was put to stud, and his genetics were obviously highly sought after. His record, his power, everyone wanted a piece of that.
How long did he live?
He lived to be 13, a good long life, especially considering his past. But by the end, he was blind and lame due to so many fights.
The battles took their toll.
They did. His body showed the wear and tear. But here's the thing that people always mention, the statement that sums up his resilience. No pit bull managed to get his hide.
Meaning he never quit. Never surrendered in a fight.
Exactly. Even if he was physically breaking down later in life, in the pit, no opponent ever made him turn. He kept his game, his fighting spirit right to the end. Never truly defeated in combat. That's the ultimate mark of toughness in that world.
An incredible legacy of resilience. Now, during his peak, were there other top dogs around? Potential rivals?
Oh, yes. 2 other prominent names making waves were Stinson and Glover, Grease J. Art, a 3-time winner, and Shea Giroux's Gunner, a 4-time winner, both highly respected champions.
So did they ever face Zebo, the ultimate showdowns?
Nope. They were never put up against Zebo, and no one knows the reason.
Another mystery. Why not? Fear, logistics, mutual respect.
We just don't know. Could be any of those. Maybe owners didn't want to risk their champion's record against the ultimate force. Maybe it just never came together. It just adds to that aura around Zebo, the unchallenged king.
But his status isn't just based on who he didn't fight. It's those awards, right?
Absolutely. His legacy is cemented by his unique achievements. He earned Grand Champion for his own undefeated record. He earned R.O.M, Register of Merit.
Remind us what R.O.M means again. It's about the offspring.
Exactly. R.O.M isn't for his wins, but because he produced multiple champions himself, it proves he passed on those winning traits.
Okay. And the third one, P.O.R.
P.O.R, Producer of Record. That goes even further. It recognizes consistent, long-term production of high-quality offspring. It marks him as a truly proven, reliable sire whose impact shaped the breed significantly.
So he wasn't just a great fighter. He was a great producer of fighters. A genetic giant.
That's the perfect way to put it. And here's the truly remarkable part. Zebo was the only American Pit Bull Terrier to be honored with these 3 awards.
The only one, ever.
The only one. Grand Champion, R.O.M, and P.O.R. That triple crown. Nobody else has matched it. Plus, he was inducted into the Bulldog Hall of Fame. His place in history is unique. Undeniable.
Unmatched. So let's talk more about that P.O.R. status, his bloodline. How influential was it, really?
Monumental. Just monumental. His stud career was incredibly prolific. His bloodline became a foundational pillar for countless APBT lines that followed. It's everywhere, even today.
You can see it in pedigrees.
All the time. He has a long, long list of famous offspring. Dogs who became champions and important producers themselves. It just shows how potent his genetics were.
Can you give us some examples, names people might recognize?
Sure. There's C. Adams, Katie, Tomsic Spider R.O.M, C.H. Ruby, C.A. Abuelita, C.H. Zipper, C.H. Diamond Gem.
Okay.
Then, reflecting the naming conventions of the time, which, included terms we wouldn't use today but are part of the historical record, dogs like Clemens, C.Z. Boy, Clemens, C.H. Tobe, Clemens Toby R.O.M.
Right. Important to note the historical context of the names.
Definitely. The list goes on. Super C.H. Nats Blackie, Hughes Gator R.O.M, C.H. Ratliff's Trap, Rocca's C.H. Blobo, Patrick's GR CH Sinner. I mean, it's a who's who of influential dogs.
But dynasty, basically, all tracing back to Zebo.
Pretty much. And one son often mentioned as being almost a clone in terms of fighting style was Steps Eru Willie.
Willie.
What was said about him? He was said to have the same destructive strength as his father Zebo and killing all of his adversaries in 40 minutes.
Wow. So that raw power, that efficiency, it passed directly down. Clear proof of his genetic dominance.
Exactly. And it didn't stop there. Zebo was also a grandsire. His grandson, Dox Trumeau, was also a grand champion himself for a time.
So the influence spread through generations.
Foundational.
Absolutely foundational.
There's always a but with Zebo.
Right. Despite this undeniable legacy, this champion-producing machine, we circle back to that nagging mystery, his pedigree. Specifically, that coat color question.
The all-black Zebo enigma.
Exactly. Remember the parents? Lonzo's Andy and Lonzo's Angie. Their breeding was hailed as this perfect combination of bloodlines. Tudor's Debo, Old Family Red Nose, Colby Heinzel.
Which should produce red-nosed dogs. That's the common understanding. It explains the red-nosed litter, like Vindicator, the tremendous red-nosed bulldog. It fits the genetics.
Okay, makes sense for Vindicator and maybe others. But then, as the question goes, where did this all-black Zebo come from?
Right. If the genetics pointed towards red nose, how do you get an all-black dog from the same pairing in the same litter? It's a genetic puzzle. A contradiction.
Why does this specific point get debated so much? What's really at stake for breeders? It's just a color, isn't it?
Oh, it's much more than just color. In the world of selective breeding, pedigree is everything. It's the blueprint. It predicts traits, confirms lineage, guides future breedings.
Okay.
If Zebo's true parentage is uncertain, especially regarding a trait like coat color, which should follow genetic rules, it doesn't just question him. It casts a shadow on the reliability of the whole recorded history of that line.
It undermines the foundation.
Exactly. It suggests an unknown variable, something unaccounted for in the genetic recipe. And that's why it's led to so many conflicting theories, so much doubt.
What are some of those theories?
Well, for many breeders, looking at the genetics, they say, theoretically, Zebo is not Vindicator's brother. It just doesn't compute genetically, in their view.
So maybe not from that litter at all.
That's one line of thought. Another suggestion, popping up in some accounts, is that Lester Hughes bought Zebo from Lonzo Pratt without a pedigree, or at least without a fully verified one, which would obviously hide his true origins.
Conveniently hiding the problem.
Could be. Then there are more specific, provocative theories. Some suggest Zebo was sibling to Bullison.
Bullison, another huge name. That would mean completely different parents, a different lineage altogether.
And the massive claim, exactly. And then there's this almost conspiratorial idea that Mountain Man, even though he sold many Zebos, only Dave Adams bought the true Zebo.
Implying there were fake Zebos out there. Or misidentified dogs.
That's the implication, that maybe the dog everyone thinks was Zebo or some of the dogs bred under his name weren't the original article Adams bought. It just adds layers of confusion, muddying the waters around his real identity and lineage.
So many questions, so few definitive answers.
And that's really the bottom line here. As the records and stories show, this will always be an unanswered question. The precise details of Zebo's pedigree, that black coat anomaly, it remains an enigma.
A puzzle.
A fascinating puzzle. It shows how even the most documented figures, human or animal, can hold on to secrets, fuel debate for decades. Some parts of history just resist easy answers.
Wow. What an incredible journey, though, digging into the life of Grand Champion Zebo.
It really is.
From that promising pup in North Carolina, Lonzo Pratt's yard, to this undefeated, truly devastating champion. He became a cornerstone, no doubt about it.
An absolute cornerstone of the APBT lineage, and that unique triple award status Grand Champion R.O.M. P.O.R. Nobody else has done that. It just shouts his impact, both in the pit and as a sire.
Yeah, his genes are still out there flowing through pedigrees, a massive lasting influence.
But Zebo's story, it's more than just wins and losses, right? Or even genetic mysteries. It makes you think, what does a story like this really represent?
Good question. Is it just about an amazing fighting dog, peak canine performance, courage, game, all within that controversial historical context?
Or is it maybe about something deeper, like the sheer power of selective breeding for good and bad to shape animals, shape legacies?
Yeah, and the complex, sometimes brutal relationship between humans and the animals they control.
And just the way legends get made, how they're remembered, even when the facts are patchy, contradictory, mysterious, it kind of pushes you to look beyond just the surface story.
To see the impact individuals can have, even animal individuals, on history.
Absolutely. So as you think back on Zebo's Life, here's maybe a final thought to chew on.
Okay.
In our world today, we've got so much information, right? Everything seems documented, searchable. So why do some historical figures, even a dog like Zebo, still hold on to so many secrets? Why do they still spark such passionate debate decades later? What does it really mean for a legacy to be so undeniably impactful, yet still be wrapped in this enduring mystery, this riddle that people are still trying to solve?
That's a great question. And it goes way beyond just pit bull history, doesn't it? Makes you think about all the legends around us.
It really does.
Well, that, everyone, was another deep dive into the currents of history. We really hope you enjoyed exploring the complex legacy of Grand Champion Zebo with us.
Thanks for joining us.
Until next time.